Good morning, good afternoon to everyone, depending on where you're joining us from. We're going to start in 1 minute. Make yourself comfortable. We just give a little bit more time for everybody to log on. So I think we are ready to go. Hello, everybody. My name is Joost Wagner, and I'm going to be your moderator also for the second edition of Wasteless Wednesdays. Welcome to everybody who's joining us from different time zones, from Asia, from Europe, and who knows, maybe some from time zones like in the US or other countries in the Americas. So before we start, I just wanted to make a very important announcement. So if you are not feeling comfortable to listen to English, we have 4 more languages for you available with our interpretation feature on WebEx. You will see in the bottom left a globe icon, and if you click on that one, we offer you the choice of Bahasa Indonesia, Bahasa Thai, Vietnamese, or Mandarin Chinese. So you can choose, or if you are bored with listening to English, you can try out something else. We have 4 languages for you. I will repeat this announcement later as some people might join a little bit later into our webinar today. So our webinar today is called From Raising Awareness to Changing Behavior, how to encourage citizens to join the circular economy for plastics. And I think we're going to have a very interesting conversation today. We have 4 colleagues who will share innovative approaches today. And as always, these Wasteless Wednesdays are organized by the Rethinking Plastics project, which promotes circular economy solutions to marine litter. And Rethinking Plastics was commissioned by the European Union and the German government on behalf of the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, and is implemented by GIZ and Expertise France. However, today's webinar is actually co-organized by the Prevent Waste Alliance. So I will now pass the word over to 2 ladies, to 2 representatives of both organizations, Rethinking Plastics and the Prevent Waste Alliance. So I have the pleasure to introduce you on the one hand to Lena Kampe. She's the regional key expert for communications, awareness raising, monitoring and reporting at the Rethinking Plastics project of GIZ, and also from GIZ, but being the project manager at the Prevent Waste Alliance Secretariat at GIZ, we have today Eva Dürr with us. And she's responsible also for communication, but she's also very, very much interested in behavioral centered design programs. So welcome, Eva. Welcome, Lena. I invite you to share a little bit about who you are, what is this all about, and what are we looking at today in our Wasteless Wednesday edition.
Joost, and good morning and welcome to all of our guests in the webinar. I think, Lena, before we get started, we have one thing which we would like to mention, which is that we know that the transition to a sustainable circular economy requires a profound systemic change. And of course, behavior change is not the solution to everything. Businesses need to change the way they operate. We need the right legislation to support a circular economy. And behavior change is just one puzzle piece of the transition to a circular economy. It's important when it comes to proper waste segregation, for example, or also when it comes to the acceptance of reuse models. And this is why we picked this topic today. To get started, I would like to introduce the Prevent Waste Alliance very briefly. We are a platform for exchange and international cooperation in the field of circular economy. We were launched in 2019 by the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, and the Secretariat of Prevent is managed by GIZ. Next slide, please. So what do we do at Prevent? We bring together circular economy practitioners for a peer-to-peer exchange. As you can see, we have around 300 members at the moment from more than 50 countries, and we have members from civil society, private sector, academia, and public institutions. You can see that we have a lot of actors from the private sector, which is important, of course, but equally important is to have a mix of the different stakeholders, because we found that the best solutions are created when different stakeholders work together and they all bring their unique perspectives to the table. Next slide, please. Yeah, so Prevent is a think and do tank, as we like to say. On the left side of the slide, you can see the think part. We have 3 working groups where our members engage, where we focus on the material streams, plastics, electrical and electronic equipment and batteries, and also organic waste and framework conditions for a circular economy. We have 3 main working groups, but of course, a lot of sub-working groups which focus on very specialized topics like plastic credits or battery recycling or circular design. We connect our members in matchmaking series. We write and publish joint studies and discussion papers, and we share our knowledge at conferences and events, of course. But developing solutions on a theoretical level is not enough. That's why we are also focusing on testing, piloting, and scaling concrete circular economy solutions. We currently have pilot projects in 15 countries worldwide and 3 innovation contests. Our innovation contests focus on the topics reuse, repair, and refurbishment of electrical and electronic equipment. Then we have a contest which is supporting startups in South and Southeast Asia in tackling single-use plastics. And we have one innovation contest on behavior-centered design, which leads me to our next and last slide. At Prevent, we work on different cross-cutting issues. One of them is, for example, financing mechanisms for a circular economy. Another one is digitalization. And of course, awareness raising and behavior change is also one of the cross-cutting issues that's important to us. We have 3 activities in this area. First, we have an internal roundtable on awareness raising and behavior change, where experts offer their advice to other Prevent members who want to include behavioral insights in their projects. Then secondly, as I just mentioned, we have currently an innovation program on behavior-centered design, together with Rare, who will be presenting on the different levers of behavior change later on. And of course, we have an event series on behavior change related topics. This is also part of our event series. And the next event will take place in August and will focus on financial incentives for behavior change. If you would like to learn more about the Prevent Waste Alliance, please find us online. You can also find us on LinkedIn, and I will post all the links in the chat. Yeah, that's it from my side. Lena, I would like to hand over to you.
Thank you so much, Eva, and also thank you, Joost, and welcome everyone to this second session. I'm from Rethinking Plastics, as Joost already said, focusing on awareness raising and communications. And let me quickly, shine a light about Rethinking Plastics and why we're also doing this webinar series now, which is the second session. So Rethinking Plastic is active in 7 countries in East and Southeast Asia: China, Indonesia, Japan, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam. And we are running since 3 years. We will end in a couple of months with our activities and have therefore also a lot of things to share and insights to share. So this is the background of our Wasteless Wednesday series. The overall objective of our work is to support the transition towards a circular economy for plastics here in the region, to reduce plastic waste leakage and marine litter. And there is a lot of exchange of knowledge happening already, and we're happy to contribute to that between the countries and also with the European Union, who is one of the funding parties of our project. And we focus on specific areas of action, I can say, or topic areas along the full plastic waste value chain. So on the one hand, we look on sustainable consumption and production of plastics. For example, by reducing single-use plastics, especially in food delivery and takeaway at the moment, because that saw quite a rise during the COVID times. We work on improving plastic waste management with a specific focus on concepts such as EPR. We work on reducing litter from sea-based sources, such as in ports and on fishing vessels, and you will hear more about that later on. Also on green public procurement policies in specific countries, and then also an awareness raising about sustainable consumption and the impact of littering. So this is basically where we're coming from today. We also have, as Eva also said, we also have, like, on one hand, policy advice, and then concrete pilot projects in the countries I mentioned to test new approaches, to see what is needed to basically upscale good solutions. And we are very happy that we have the possibility to invite all these pilot projects within this Wasteless Wednesdays series, because it's really like hands-on experiences these pilot projects can share. Today we will learn more on the topic of raising awareness and changing behavior. Maybe I just jump to the next slide. This is part of our project activities, not only because we are financing also awareness raising campaigns about the topics. Maybe next slide. But also within the pilot projects I've mentioned, there's a lot of testing what is actually needed to improve the surrounding, to encourage more, for example, segregation, and also what would be needed, for example, to reduce plastic bags in traditional market. Next slide, please. So a lot of our pilot projects also test how they can basically change the situation and behave, the behavior change as well of the involved stakeholders. And if you've been here 2 weeks ago, we already heard from one pilot project, for example, in Indonesia, working with school children, who is really also focusing on this long-term monitoring of behavior change activities. So this is what we have in mind in overall within Rethinking Plastics, and I'm happy that we can share today some of our awareness raising as well as behavior change approaches. Thank you so much. Back to you, Joost, I would say.
Yes, I had to unmute myself. Thank you very much, Lena. Thank you very much, Eva. So you heard it. We will hear today from experts and practitioners who will share their innovative approaches, their behavioral change work, their awareness work. And I think we have been joined since we started this webinar 50 minutes ago by another 20 or 25 colleagues and participants. So I just want to remind everybody, we have translation in 4 more languages: in Pasathai, in Bahasa Indonesia, in Vietnamese, and in Mandarin Chinese. So if you click on that little globe icon on the bottom left, then you can choose another language. Secondly, we want to make heavy use of our chat. So I want to explain how you can engage with us. You can actually share comments and ask questions as well. We are going to split our Wasteless Wednesday edition today into two parts. I will invite two of our presenters to share first. I follow up with one or two quick questions. Then we are going to listen to the presentation number 3 and number 4. I follow up with one or two questions, and then we open up the floor for your questions, who hopefully come into the chat while you are listening to the presentations. I asked Eva, you have just seen her, to be my eyes and ears, so to say, in the chat, and she will hopefully then summarize a couple of questions to each speaker so that we can address as many as possible. This webinar is, of course, taken on video. So if anybody would later like to share the video with other people, or you would like to see it again, that's of course possible. And we also have with us Mr. Hilmi. Mr. Hilmi is a graphic recorder. He's behind the scene trying to capture some of the key messages from our conversation today, and we will share his work a little bit before we go in the general Q&A. So that's what's going to happen. So let's go right into it. And I want to present to you our first approach. And this will be coming from the managing director at Change Vietnam, a very, very active environmental NGO based in Ho Chi Minh City. And for more than 9 years, this lady has been working with change from its beginning, from its dawn. So please welcome Nhi Toi, and she will present in the next 8 to 10 minutes their interesting approach. Nhi, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Josh. Hello, everybody. I'm Nhi, and as Josh said, I've been with Change and also like in the environment field for about 9 to 10 years. But one fun fact about me is that I didn't have an environmental background. I didn't study to be an environmentalist. And before I campaigned on plastic, I consumed a lot of plastic. Because like plastic is inevitably convenient, and even decades ago, it was one of the most significant inventions in humankind's history. And like any other people, I felt easy surrounding myself with plastic. And you can see, hello, I think yeah, that's right. Can you go next slide, please? Yeah, as you can see, like this is me and my plastic friend. You can see that in this photo, I have my favorite daily booster drink, which is a chili sauce contained in a single-use plastic. And at that time, I didn't have an urge to change my behavior until one day I saw this footage. Next slide, please. So I bet most of you who are here today, who care about environment, have seen it at least once before. So there is a short film by Chris Jordan illustrating the birds on Midway Island whose bodies are filled with plastic debris. The image, when I saw it, struck my mind because I could have never imagined that all the plastic product that I'm using daily was stuffed inside the body of a fluffy and cute animal like that. And it's not just a single bird, it's 1/3 of the bird population in that island were killed because of this reason. And the more I search about information, the more shocking images and info I found out. And at that time, I decided that I need to do something, I need to change. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. And you can see like at that time, like when I decided to change, I see myself changing, and I also see my, no, not yet, my other people who are close to me are changing, including my husband, my parents-in-law, my cousin, they are changing their habits in a better way. And you see that like on this process, I realized that like behavior change start with awareness. When people are aware, they will do something. In Vietnamese, there are an old saying that like nhân chi sơ tính bổn thị, like it means that like human beings are born to be good. If they aren't good, then they are taught into unhelpful or unhealthy habits. And likewise, next slide, please. Likewise, people consume a lot of process because like other people around them are doing it. They just follow the social norm. Next slide, please. Yeah, no, not yet. Sorry. I think like there's some interruption in my side. Yeah. So they just follow the social norms, and they never had a chance to see the problem and to reflect on their behavior. And they kind of see like how much plastic they are discharging daily and what their consequences are. For those reasons, we created the Plastic Biz campaign, next slide, which is a part of the Rethinking Plastic project. The Plastic Biz, like it is an imaginative creature made of plastic trash and weighs 37 kilograms, which is equivalent to the amount of plastic waste that one Vietnamese person discharges in a year to the environment. So if one single Vietnamese person discharges this huge plastic bits, then the whole population of Vietnam people, like 100 million people will produce like 100 billion plastic bits every year. And this is massive, and this is very threatening. So our purpose with this project, with this campaign, like we want to make people, the public, they are well aware of like how horrible and how severe the problem is, and like from that we motivate them to take some kind of action to change. And we conducted the campaign in 1 month, like from late April to late May. Next slide, please, with various kind of like activities. So like we had a launch, like we had exhibitions at shopping malls and like universities, and we created a microsite where people can visit and then like calculate how many plastic bits they are creating each year and how to reduce them. And we also like asked our campaign partner to distribute posters everywhere at their store, their restaurant, and their offices. And we conducted educational tools and interaction. We also created a lot of communication materials on social media and our home channels. And next slide, please. And here are the results that we got. So quantitatively, like we attracted around like 100 people to the launch, and also like 8,000 other people to the exhibition. Like we attracted more than like 4.5 million people online, and also like engaged a lot, like around 34 business partners to join hands. And so after the campaign finished, like 12 other entities, they reached out to us and asked to exhibit the plastic bits further, so that like, the campaign still continued. And quantitatively and qualitatively, we surveyed around like 100 people who visited our campaign, and 88.8% of them expressed their wish to change, like to practice a green lifestyle. And many of them share good feedback about the campaign. They said that they really impressed with the concept, and that the campaign make them think and reflect on their behavior, and that they felt guilty when they receive plastic bag when they order food, and that like they are thinking about changing their behavior, refusing the plastic when they have a change. Next slide, please. And while we working on the campaign, we encounter a lot of challenges, like and the biggest one is the permit. Maybe maybe it's kind of like a weird idea, and maybe because like the NGO sector is not like really like positively perceived in Vietnamese political context. So we got a lot of problem to ask for the permission to launch the campaign or to create this kind of campaign to the public. And it took us about 5 months to finally got the approval to do it. But like somehow we managed to do it, and then like and with the result that I listed earlier, I somehow claim that there is a successful campaign, and like there are some certain factors that contributed to the success of the campaign. First, I can say that like when we talk about the plastic issue, like we presented the information in a creative and presentable manner. So like we make the information really tangible. Like we didn't talk about like just 37 kilogram or like a lot of tons plus this waste that like people discharge out there, but like we visualize to make people think like make people see like 38 kilogram of plastic look huge like this. We make the information personalized. So we didn't talk about the problem elsewhere, but like we are talking about the problem of Vietnamese people, and we are talking about like Vietnamese people are creating this kind of heritage for the future. We make the information like interactive with a lot of activities involved. The second thing is when we talk with different audiences, like we utilize different messages. Like if we talk to the kids or talk to the adults or talk to the business partner, we use like a variety of messages that fit their interests. The third one is that like we trigger people's emotions and connected them with their underlying values. So we don't ask people to protect the environment, to save the environment if they don't care about it. We ask them to save.
Okay.
And yeah, if they are sympathetic enough, like we ask them to care for other creatures that are being harmed by plastics out there. And finally, like with the campaign, we gave people some kind of nudge with easy to follow solutions. And also like we had TikTokers and KOL as role models towards the positive and new kind of like good behavior. And next slide, please. In the end, this can be claimed as one of our successful communications or awareness raising campaign, but I'm aware that like we're just at the beginning, like for the public to take action to change their behavior and also to maintain the newly developed behavior, we need further steps. But again, as I said earlier, like for things to change, we should start with awareness. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Nhi, and I think we're going to talk a few minutes more about it in a short while. And but please, everybody, be aware, be mindful of your mic. So I think sometimes it's easy to unmute yourself, and we hear your background noise. Let's go straight to the second one before I have some follow-up questions for Nhi and for our second speaker. We are going now to hear about work from the RARES China Center for Behavior project, which is called Pride on Our Plates, an innovative project that seeks to tackle food waste among micro, small, and medium enterprises in China through the application of RARES behavior-centered design approach. And we have with us Sam Gray. Sam Gray, originally from the UK, but I think he's calling in today from Berlin. He will share a little bit their approach, and I'm very happy he could make it. So Sam, over to you. So Sam, are you there? So I don't hear Sam. Here we go.
Hear me? Thank you. Sorry, I appeared to be muted there. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you, Nhi, as well for the really interesting presentation. It was great to hear about the work that you've been doing. So, as Josh just mentioned, my name's Sam Gray, and I'm joining today from an organisation called RARE. And what I really want to talk to you about over the next 10 minutes or so is what we call the different levers of behaviour change. And I want to give you a quick insight into what these are, and perhaps more importantly, how they could be used to promote a circular economy. So as an organisation, Rare have been around for about 45 years. And in that time, we've led over 400 behaviour change campaigns in more than 60 different countries, working in a number of different areas. And this is everything from fisheries management to the project you mentioned earlier, which is looking to reduce food waste. And in 2017, we launched our Centre for Behaviour in the Environment. And what this is looking to do is help transform the environmental field by equipping practitioners everywhere with the science of human behaviour. And the Centre exists to support both our own programmes, but more importantly, other organisations, helping them integrate behaviour science into their work. So as you can see from the pictures that are on the slide at the moment, there's a number of different environmental challenges. And looking at all of these pictures, all of the problems might seem completely different, but generally they all have one thing in common. And that is to help solve them, someone somewhere has to start behaving differently. So before we go into the levers, I'm going to give you all a quick question to get our minds working. So if you could go to the next slide, please. So let's say you are about to buy a new phone charger for $21.99 when you learn that the exact same charger is available for $12.99 at another store 10 minutes walk away. So what I want to know from you is, would you walk 10 minutes to the other store to get the cheaper phone charger? And perhaps you can respond by giving me a thumbs up if you would take the 10-minute walk, or a thumbs down for no, you would get it at the nearest store. So you should be able to react at the bottom of the screen. Okay. So if you go to the next slide. So now you're about to buy a MacBook for, let's say, $1,329 when you learn that the same MacBook is available for $1,320 at another store. Again, 10 minutes walk away. So again, the same question, would you walk to the other store to get the cheaper MacBook? So, and perhaps you could give a thumbs up if you would walk and a thumbs down if you would stay where you are. Okay, so it's quite interesting today. The response is actually been more of you would say you would make the 10-minute walk, but often what we see when we ask this question is that people might typically make the walk when it's looking at saving the $10 on the phone charger, but they wouldn't perhaps make the walk when you're looking at this kind of larger high ticket item, which in this case is the MacBook. So if we could go to the next slide. You can see basically here what you've been asked is the same question, and that is, would you walk 10 minutes to save $9? But the only real difference here is that the change has been how the question has been framed. And what I wanted to kind of highlight here is there's often a lot of different things that affect our decisions or our thinking, but we don't actually realize they're impacting that thought process. Some things we can see and call out, but others are more subtle or unconscious. And what we need to do is try to take all of these factors into account when designing solutions for environmental or other challenges. And if we could go to the next slide. So it's estimated that on average, we make around 35,000 decisions in a day. And obviously, we're not going to make a note and consciously be aware of these decisions. But when looking at these decisions, there's a whole spectrum of effortful and automatic ways of thinking and deciding. So for some of these decisions, we're really weighing up the options, we're calculating the costs and the benefits. And for a lot of the other decisions that we make, perhaps the ones we don't even realize we're making, we're reacting automatically, quickly, instinctively. And when we make decisions, there's so many things going on in our brains and so many different motivations. And what I want to look at today is this behavior levers framework, which is basically looking to find a whole spectrum, look to find ways of across the whole spectrum of this decision-making process. And in the environmental work that we do, we have an opportunity to recognize the many reasons and ways that people make decisions. So if you go to the next slide. So here you can see pretty much the most common tactics that people think about when it comes to behavior change. And these are all designed for one kind of thinking. And this is that thinking that we saw on the left-hand side of the spectrum earlier, that assumes we're always weighing our options, calculating costs and benefits when we make a decision. So these first three levers are, I'm going to now quickly introduce them to you. And the first one is the idea of material incentives, which in its simplest form is paying people. So this could be making the cost or benefits of a decision weigh in your favor. So for example, you could increase the value of a decision so that it has fewer costs, such as the time it takes for someone to do something, the money required to do something, or the effort, to give kind of greater benefits to encourage the behavior you want. The second step is all about rules and regulations. And obviously this is important. So it's all about putting in a kind of knowledge or rules and laws that can communicate order in a system, causing people to associate a certain behavior with the tag right or wrong. So it's about putting in that legal framework in place. And then the final, more traditional lever is all about information. So essentially, it's about making sure that the target information that you're trying to reach are informed about the challenges at hand, and they're given the right information on what they might need to do. So all of these three levers are great, but there are also some challenges with them. So if you go to the next slide, you can quickly take a look at what some of these challenges are. So for example, financial incentives can backfire, and this could be because payments can crowd out other motivations. They can be expensive and drain perhaps limited financial resources to change your desired behavior. And over time, fines can even just be seen as the cost of carrying out a certain behavior. And when it comes to rules and regulations, again, while you might be able to put a framework in place, rules often need enforcement, and this is the challenging part. And again, rules that do not work if the norms and the social norms in that context don't really align with the rules in place. And again, with information, just by correcting an information deficit, we find that it rarely leads to a lasting change in actions or a lasting change in beliefs. And just by caring or knowing something, it's not necessarily a prerequisite to lasting change. So what we look to do is try to benefit and improve these traditional levers by adding three what we might traditionally see as more non-traditional levers. So if you could go to the next slide, we can take a quick look at those. So here, what we're promoting is a more kind of comprehensive set of tools that environmental practitioners can use to tackle some of the biggest environmental challenges. Now, as well, I just want to highlight that these shouldn't necessarily be seen in place of the more traditional levers that we just looked at, but they should be used and seen rather to complement these levers, and in some cases accelerate the adoption of the behavioural solutions we're seeking to use. So in short, these levers are kind of recognising three things. That firstly, that emotions are often more powerful than reasons. The second is that we are inherently a social species. And finally, that the context and the timing of when and where we make decisions matters most. So just to give you a little bit more information on what these are. So the first is social influences. And this is all about the power of people around us, the power of our network, and how often as a species we look at what others are doing to decide and kind of influence our behaviour. Emotional appeals are essentially recognizing the power of human emotion. And there's a lot here, you know, this could be everything from pride to shame, and trying to use this emotion to, again, power our actions and decisions. And the third, which was choice architecture. Now, this is essentially about changing the context in where we make decisions. So it could be about what some people might know as the kind of idea of nudge theory, about making something easy for an individual or a group to do, to kind of make that desired behavior the easiest behavior to make. And again, while I suppose today we're looking at different behaviors and how we can use these for consumers, I think I also wanted to highlight as well that all of these tools and levers of behavior change aren't just for use when we're thinking about campaigns that can be applied to ordinary consumers or the general public. And that's because it's important to remember that businesses and governments are made up of people too. So let's say, for example, there's a supply chain operator who might be looking to, say, change from new plastics to recycled plastics for their company's bottle production. And there's, again, these kind of levers here could be used in that context. So traditionally, they might be emotionally driven by uncertainty of switching to a new supplier. They might have a socially driven, long-standing relationship with a previous supplier that might be preventing them from some shifting, or they might be influenced by their decision-making context. So, for example, we all probably know it's far easier to buy the same product as last month rather than needing to set up a process of buying from a new supplier, and that's often particularly the case in a business environment. So those are some quick examples there of the different levers. And I know there's probably a lot to take in there in 10 minutes. So one thing, if you skip forward 2 slides, that might be helpful is we actually have a lot more information on all of these levers on our website, which is behavior.rare.org. And I think if you can just move forward 2 slides, there should be a link there to that website. Perfect. So I hope that's a very quick overview of the different levers. It gives you an idea of how these different tools can be used to shape behavior. And that's all from me for now.
Thank you very much, Sam. I'm a sociologist. I worked on behavioral change, especially in the field of HIV, AIDS, and so on. So I'm really fascinated about what you are sharing, and I would like to know so much more, but time is very limited. So I quickly want to ask you and me one follow-up questions. But let me start with you, Sam, as it's just now fresh in our head. So you mentioned that the levers, social influences, emotional appeals, or choice architecture should be used more. I mean, you mentioned we can look at the website, and I think it was just shared in the chat, so that's great. So is there maybe one example or 1 or 2 examples you would like to share in 2-3 minutes we should look at, and which kind of a good place to start to learn more how to apply it? Is there something you can share?
Of course. I mean, I think there's so many interesting examples of, I guess, how these have been applied to solve different challenges. But perhaps maybe a good place today to start might even be just pointing out examples of where these levers have been used in different contexts that maybe we're all familiar with. So I think a good example in terms of social influences, a really interesting study was one that carried out to basically encourage guests, to reuse towels in a hotel room. And I think we're all probably familiar now, perhaps even more so before COVID. You know, when we're traveling often now, we might see in hotels some messaging, for example, encouraging people to save the environment and for example, place the towel back on the rack if they would be willing to reuse it again the next day. And this kind of simple save the environmental messaging, of course, can be powerful. But what this study did is they actually sought to create a shared identity with others who had used the room before to encourage towel reuse. So in this study, I think what they did is they were saying, for example, 74% of guests who used this room before reused their towel the previous day. And what this found was by simply kind of making this comparison between other people that had been in the room and kind of setting the desired behavior as a social norm, it then actually increased the reuse of this towel rather than by simply just giving messaging which encourages people to save the environment. So here, I think it's all about making desired behavior the perceived norm. Actually, it was seen as a really easy way of kind of using social influences to encourage the desired behavior.
Thank you very much, Sam. I would like to add something more. We have one more.
Yeah, I was going to, if you have enough time, then perhaps choice architecture as well, as we were saying. I think, again, that there's so many ways, and again, when we probably go about our daily lives, we'd be thinking now, this is an example of choice architecture in place. But in short, I guess for choice architecture is all about changing the default and making the desired behavior as simple and easy as possible. So, for example, by changing the default option in your Office printer to double-sided printing instead of single-sided printing, you're then going to get paper use jumping by around 40–50%, most studies show. So again, it's kind of just making what you want to happen, the easy, the norm, the desired behavior, and kind of using this kind of choice architecture framework to kind of direct attention, simplify messages, and kind of use prompts or timely moments to edge people towards the behavior that you want them to carry out.
Thanks very much, Sam. I would love to talk more, but hopefully there are some more questions hopefully coming in for Sam or for Nhi. And Nhi, I have a question also for you. So, I mean, first of all, I'm very impressed by your Plastic Beast campaign. I mean, it's also culturally adapted and I like it very much. So on the one hand, I wanted to ask you a very simple one. Where did you get all your inspiration, creative ideas from? Is it like a collective co-creation, or where do you get your inspiration from for these kind of campaigns? And secondly, a little bit more complicated question is, how can awareness raising and information from your experience contribute to behavior change on the one hand, and then systemic change on the other? So 2 in 1 question.
Okay. Okay. So the inspiration for this campaign, actually, like we got the inspiration from creatures. Like actually, it's in our old white cells. There are in a story long time ago. So like in Vietnamese culture, we have these creatures, we call it Thong Luong. So actually it's a monster, a waterway monster. And like people were very scared of this monster because it's very harmful and very dangerous. So reflecting on the plastic issue, we think that like this is a very serious problem, and then like it's very harmful as well. But then like people are just ignorant about it because like they are not aware of it. They don't see it out there. So we want people to scare of like plastic and plastic consumption just the way they're scared of the Thong Luong creature. So we created this plastic bit one. The original idea is like we want to place this in the water, and we want people to say that like suddenly one day they found out this, and they are talking about it. They're spreading the rumor about one dangerous this found in the water in Vietnam or in Ho Chi Minh City. But then after that, like we will review it. So the thing that you are seeing, this creature, is look harmful, but then like it's just like something imaginary. The thing that you should be scared more is that the microplastics that is already in the waterway. So that's our original idea, but because we didn't get the permit to place our this in the water, so we put it on land, and then like we practically create another message for it. So like we come up with the number of the amount of trash like one Vietnamese people discharge a year, and then like we could create a different approach for it. So flexibly in a sensor context. So that's for your first question. The second question is you're asking about like how awareness raising can lead to behavior change, right?
A
So,
difficult one, yes.
yeah. So as I somehow mentioned in my presentation, I believe that like behaviors change should start from awareness raising, from awareness, because like people will not change if they don't know why. Why should I change? That's but not follow my thing. And like I can see that like in Sam's presentation, like there are other incentive for people to change. It's not just information, but it can be rule and money as well. But then like if people don't know, like their behavior is against the rule, the policy, and if they don't know if it's costly or they have hidden costs, then they will not change. So by raising awareness, we give the people the reason why they should change. And if we do it nicely, we can trigger their emotion. We motivate them to take action as well. So that's how awareness can lead to behavior change. And you know that like if one person change, it's one single person change, it's not really significant, but a collective of individual, like million and billion people change, it can create a snowball effect. And you know, like as the people change, the market and also the policy, the politics have to follow suit. So by that, like it can create the systematic change in a society. So that's what is our theory of change and our belief.
Thank you, Ni. And I see already a question from Renan coming in, and I will come back to that question. I like that question too. Maybe Sam, you also want to have a look at that question for later. So thank you very much, Ni. Thank you very much, Sam. We are coming back in a short while because we have a second round of 2 interesting approaches, and we are short on time. We have 40 minutes out, so let's go straight to it. And I would like to invite our third speaker about presenting, and her name is Alina Gabdragmanova. She is a Global Knowledge and Insights Manager at Delterra, an environmental non-profit organization whose flagship initiative, Rethinking Recycling, works with communities in emerging economies to build rapidly scalable, self-sustaining waste management and recycling ecosystems. And what I really found also interesting, Alina, that you actually used to work, or you still work, actually, you're on secondment from McKinsey, where you have worked for the, I think, last 4 years, right? So welcome, Alina. So we are very interested to know about how you are approaching this problem of plastic waste. Over to you.
Thank you, Joost, and thanks to Lena and Eva for organizing such an insightful conversation. So the research that I'd like to talk about today, we have developed in partnership with the Circulate initiative, and it is based on our flagship program called Rethinking Recycling, which takes a systems view on the entire value chain in order to find solutions to boost recycling rates in the global south. We are currently focusing on Argentina and Indonesia, and source separation is a key element of this program. So if you could move to the next page, please. And thank you. Right now, we have 3 projects as part of the Rethinking Recycling program. An informal settlement of Barrio Mujica in Buenos Aires, a mid-sized city of Olavarría in Argentina, and a collection of urban districts in Bali, Indonesia. And in each of these, as the project brings the curbside style recycling to the communities for the first time, largely our staff works with local governments, waste workers, community members to promote the source separation behavior. And interestingly, I think these 3 types of projects that we have such different contexts and such different starting points, but some of the lessons that we've learned that I'm talking about here actually were universal. You could flick to the next page. Thank you. So here's how we think about the recycling behavior change. We think about it from both supporting infrastructure point of view as well as the community engagement. And I think one cannot be without the other if you are aiming for a transformative experience for the participants and for creating a meaningful and lasting impact. So if we think about the infrastructure, elements such as bins or adjusted pickup schedules could provide consistent reinforcement of habits, while the community engagement, both from top-down as well as bottom-up perspective, could cultivate the habit of separating waste. If you could flick to the next page. And look, as we were rolling out our Rethinking Recycling program, and specifically the behavior change part of it to the communities, we realized that local leaders tend to think of promoting recycling behavior more as a public awareness exercise rather than a critical piece of recycling business case, and actually can be quite skeptical in investing in deeper community engagement that successful behavior change campaigns require. And so we were thinking perhaps if we were to apply a return on investment lens to this, that could help make the case. If we think about the different costs and benefits that are associated with such a campaign. And what you see on the slide is how we structured our thinking. And we actually decided that there are several levels of scope, from more narrow and bankable, such as direct costs like printing, for example, the behavior change materials, and direct benefits such as recyclable sales revenue, to much more broader and theoretical, such as societal costs and societal benefits. And different decision makers may care about different benefits and costs, so tailoring this analysis to their priorities is quite important. For example, in Olavarria, the mayor's sustainability team was interested in the potential to qualify for the plastic credits and carbon credits as part of their benefits, because they were seeing very little avoided landfilling costs from diverting waste into recycling. Next page, please. And so some of the findings when we applied the thinking that I've described to our 3 programs on the ground. The first one was that promoting recycling behavior can pay back relatively quickly. So if we were to consider just the sales of the new recyclables, it would take the Rethinking Recycling projects around 5 years on average to earn back the cost of community engagement. However, that drops to 2 years when you take into consideration additional value, for example, saving on landfill fees or credits for environmental benefits. And so I think this really underscores the importance of embedding environmental impacts when you price the materials and waste management system. Next one, please. So another interesting bit of analysis that we wanted to do is look at, if you were to compare behavior change and very manual kind of source separation to some of the technology-based alternatives. And what we realized that in order to divert 1 ton of recyclables per year to the recycling ecosystem while using behavior change, the cost ranges between $50 to $150. But however, if the same project was to rely on mechanical waste sorting technology, it could cost almost up to $700 to achieve similar effect. So it could be a very interesting little argument there when you are considering different solutions. And the final finding on the next page is a bit of a controversial one, and the reason being, as you can see on the page, we had different levels of investment into community engagement per household. The highest level was in Bali in Indonesia, and that's where we saw the highest participation rates, up to 70%. And we need high participation rates of 50 to 70% in order to meet the recycling goals. However, we are still experimenting to find what is the right level of investment required. And actually, most recently, we saw a participation rate of just over 50%, 53% in Olavarria, while keeping it around the same level of investment per household, which is really exciting. So we're still learning about it, still experimenting, and yeah, we're going to be sharing our insights as we go through this journey. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alina. Let me just ask you a quick follow-up question, because given the time, I wanted to ask you, you have now just presented an amazing approach in research and of behavioral change. So what are the next steps for you? I mean, how do you, I mean, we always talk about the bridge between research and action, right? I used to have a boss in my earlier years who always asked, okay, now you have done the research, so what? So how do you put this research into action? Any plans, anything
question.
You can share about that?
So look, based on some of the reflections that I shared and some of the early successes that we saw in the smaller programs on the ground, one big goal is to scale that. To scale that across the countries where we operate right now, in Argentina and Indonesia, and also enter new geographies. We're entering a new country this year. That's one. The second one, actually, I think the research underscored some of the systemic changes that are needed, that I think Eva was talking about earlier, that to make the whole ecosystem work, for example, creating strong demand at reasonable prices. So that's another area that we are starting to look at as well, because without that, the system just would not work. So yeah, that's where we are.
Okay, great. Alina, please be so kind to share maybe any conducive link in the chat in the meantime, while I'm introducing our last and fourth presentation for today, and then hopefully we can use the remaining time to address some of these great questions coming in the chat. So the last presentation is actually coming from Zhou Yanwen. Yanwen is a specialist at the Rethinking Plastics project of GIZ, and she supports the Rethinking Plastics activities in China. And she's very much passionate about fighting plastic pollution, marine litter. She's working for sustainable consumption and production. These are her focus areas. So we were very happy to have you with us, Yanwen, and you are going to talk about the GIZ pilot project, Fishing for Litter. So maybe if you can do that in 7-8 minutes, that's great, so that we have the remaining 20 minutes for interaction with the audience. Over to you, Yanwen.
Okay, thanks, Joost. Hello, everyone. This is Yanwen from Rethinking Plastics project in China, and very happy to be here with you today to share the pilot results of the Fishing for Litter scheme in China. And we raise up this topic in today's session because the Fishing for Litter is never a technical issue, but rather an awareness issue. So that very happy to share about it today, and hope my introduction will give some useful insight to you. Next slide, please. Okay, so we cooperate with the local institute in Hainan province. It's Hainan Research Academy of Environmental Sciences in Hainan, and we implement our Fishing for Litter pilot in Changhua and Sanya port. Maybe you know a little bit about the Fishing for Litter scheme. It's just a simple approach which is derived from Europe, and we want to use this scheme to tell the fishermen when they go fishing at sea, they can also bring back the waste caught in their nets and bring them back to the land instead of directly throw them into the sea. So the Rethinking Plastics project supported the activities in Hainan to explore such kind of Vision for Litter scheme, and also raise the public awareness as well. So we designed a set of solutions from waste collection at sea, and then they bring back the waste to the land, and then our environmental sanitation colleagues will help transfer the waste into the collection station, and then segregate them into different bins. And they will also weigh the waste according to different types, and also count the pieces and the amount of different waste collected from the sea. So the recyclables will finally enter the system for further reproducing and processing, and the other waste will be treated in an environmentally sound manner in the municipal solid waste treatment facilities. Next slide, please. Okay, so we got quite fruitful results. We started from the first beginning with 10 fishing boats drawing, and finally over 1 year, we have a total amount of 62 fishing boats drawing our initiative, with more than 400 fishermen drawing. And we can see in the results, according to the statistics, there are about 60% of plastic waste in the collected marine litter. The most of them are plastic bottles, plastic debris, and fishing nets. And specifically in Changhua, we also collected a very big amount of crab traps, which the iron accounts for about 30% by weight. And over 1 year, we totally collected around 6 to 7 tons of marine litter in this project. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yes, thank you. So we can say in a summary, we think we successfully established the sustainable mechanism from the waste collection at sea to the land-based treatment solutions on the land. And I think there are 3 factors which can contribute to the successful results of this pilot. First of all, we successfully identified the key persons in the local communities, Captain Zhong Qiangbing and Mr. Cai Jingsan, who is the responsible person in the fishery security and law enforcement bureau in Changhua Port. And through them, we can reach more local fishermen and know more about their working daily routines and their habitats or their needs, so that we can better communicate with them and create better conditions for them to let them join our Fishing for Litter initiative without any difficulties. This is important. And the second is we think we involve the stakeholders in the local areas. Maybe you can see in the picture the blue bags for waste collection. It's there is one piece of white cloth which is handily sold by an 80-year-old grandma from a local NGO who really gives us a great support. And we also recognized by the local government, who also support to develop a series of marine courses in the primary schools and middle schools, so that the children and teenagers can also learn more about the marine litter and environmental protection. And we also get very much dissemination in the media. For example, the official media channel like Hainan government and also the Hainan Daily. And we also receive very much thumbs up in the social media like Weibo. So we can see the Fishing for Litter pilot is a good case of social governance and worth promotion nationwide and even worldwide. And the last, I think it is important that I think I'm very touched by our partners, because when I read their midterm evaluation report of the pilot project, I read a sentence that we should treat the fishermen just like our brothers and sisters, just like our family, and care for them regularly in festivals or like that. So we are not simply doing a project, but also establish a great connection with local fishermen. So we do our things from the heart, and they will also feel and just join our activities to protect the ocean. So about next steps, I think we think that the fishing for litter needs to be further recognized by the social communities, and we think we want to explore a sustainable mechanism, incentive system to further fund the fishing for litter activities. You can see today I'm wearing a t-shirt which is made from recycled plastics of marine litter collected in Changhua. So we hope maybe we can develop such kind of idea to further encourage the consumers to value the fishing for litter activity, and then further support this initiative. So yeah, that's all what I want to share today. Hope to exchange more with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yanwen. Difficult to see your T-shirt, but however, let me ask you also quickly. Here we go. Okay, thank you. And Yanwen, just one quick question. You mentioned a little bit the way forward. Lena Kampe mentioned at the beginning this Rethinking Plastics project is coming soon to an end. So how will this project be continued? If so, how and with whom? Already some concrete steps forward, partners, or what's the way forward? Just out of curiosity, because it's a pilot project, right? So it has to. Can we scale up?
Yeah, actually, during the pilot period, we support the project with our project budget. But now, due to the remarkable result in the local area, and we receive a fixed budget from the local government, the Hainan Provincial Department of Ecology and Environment, they will allocate such kind of fixed budget to in the format of project and to our partner, and they will continue to do the pilot with the financial budget in Sanya and Changhua pilot. And also at the same time, I mentioned about our waste to fashion concept. Maybe we can, it's a follow-up idea. Maybe we can use the power of the consumption and consumers to follow, explore the sustainable mechanism to support the fishing for litter in return.
Thank you very much for sharing. And I see there's a lot of conversation going on in the chat. I think Alina already started answering some of the questions there as well. Before I want to invite Eva to maybe, how do we say that, after marine litter, fish out some of the most interesting questions. Of course, there's always a bias from our colleagues who are attending our webinar. I just wanted to remind everybody there is Mr. Hilmi from Indonesia. He's a graphic recorder, and I understand he's in the background trying to capture some of the key messages. Of course, that's all live, and he probably needs some more time to beautify and to finish his work. But is there something we can share with the audience where we are right now with the graphic recording? So our partners from Bahasa Global, who are also providing here the platform and ensuring that interpretation works. And we have all these nice. Yes, is there something we can see? Who said hello? Okay, here we go. Okay. So I can see some of our key messages. Wonderful. I'm sure our colleagues from the Rethinking Plastics project will ensure that you will have access to the final product of Pak Hilmi. Thank you so much, Mr. Hilmi, for doing that. I see already a lot of key messages in a visual way. And yes, my key message was hello. It's a pretty short one, but everybody else, I think, has some more deeper content. Thank you so much. And I want to call upon our colleague Eva from Prevent. And she was monitoring the chat for me. I saw some great questions, and I also want to encourage all our speakers today, if you can also answer in the chat or give some links. However, we have some questions we want to discuss live now in the next 10 minutes. So Eva, any questions you would like to highlight maybe for our first two speakers?
There was a question to Ni, if she has a method to monitor or if she has any analytical indicators to measure how awareness raising actually translates into behavior change.
So Ni, and of course you can always share afterwards also links and further materials in the chat. And maybe we can ask all participants, all speakers on the screen right now.
Yeah. Okay. Should I answer it now?
Yes, please. Short
Okay,
answers
okay.
are appreciated as much as you can.
Okay, so you know that like behavior change is a long process. It's not like done as soon as like you just heard the information and like you are aware of it. So it's just awareness is just like the starting point, and you have to have a further step to change your behavior. So like if you are running a short campaign, like it's there is very difficult to measure to convert like to know the impact of it. So like normally like we would do it like that. So like after like we conduct a communication campaign, like we created a Facebook group and like we invite our participants to join it. And then like during the time, like we encourage them to join challenges, and I encourage them to share their story behind. So like once they share the story, then like we can capture and we know that like they actually change or doesn't change. So it's our method. One note is that like we should be aware of all the possible outcomes. So it's not just like we are talking about plastic pollution and we ask people to stop using plastic, then it's the only outcome that we have. We can have other, like for example, like they may slowly reduce it, but then they share the story to their neighbors. They ask a partner, like someone they know, like to pay attention to your campaign, or like they support your campaign, for example, in other way, then it can be an outcome for that, and that's all you can capture as well. Yeah, so it's for my question. I can see that like you asked about like alternative. Should I answer that too?
Okay, if you do give us a 30-second answer, because we want to have a question for everybody, please go ahead.
Okay, like for alternative, so like it can be intermediate solution for that, but like in the long run, I wouldn't encourage it, because like in any way, if you have an alternative, you do use the resources of this planet, and then in the long run it's not good. Nevertheless, it's also like because like we haven't have enough time to conduct enough research to compare the pros and cons of the alternative. So we never know like if later on like they will have like major like more like negative impact to compare with plastic. The key is like we should focus on circular. We should like focus on like whether or not we can recycle the material. So whether it's plastics or other alternative, we do need like to recycle it and reuse it in some way. It's not just like exploiting the resources and then like creating a bunch of trash later on. So yeah, so I wouldn't encourage it, but then like in the short term we can use it. Yeah.
Thank you, Ni Gaman. So Eva, any questions for Sam?
Yes, Renan asked how we can avoid the Renan asked how can we avoid the rebound effect? People that normally know what is happening and agree with what is proposed for change become annoyed of hearing the same approach for the problem and leave their good behavior aside.
Brilliant. It's an interesting question. I think it'd be interesting to know more about the specific context, and maybe there's a situation you're thinking of maybe where that's happened. But I think in short here that there's different ways, and obviously very much depending on the context. But I think two important things to consider. And I think one might be, again, kind of linking back to that kind of emotional appeal. And I think there it's all about thinking, how can we reward people for carrying out desired behavior so that they might not actually, feel and kind of eliminating that temptation there to stop doing it. So I suppose it's about how can, for example, we use pride or joy or something when they are carrying out the desired behavior, and use that as a way of motivating them and kind of encouraging them to carry on with the behavior that we desire. And I suppose that other way as well, it could almost be to try to eliminate the visibility of the undesired behavior. Again, so to try to avoid that sense of frustration where it is happening, try to find out ways that you can kind of eliminate the visibility of the undesirable behavior. But again, I think this is really, I suppose, content specific on depending on the challenges. And I think there we're going to go so much more into this, looking at the whole kind of process that you could do to really understand the motivations that might be desiring that rebound. But I hope that kind of gives you two ideas, but obviously there's so much more that could be gone into depending on the specific challenge itself.
Yeah, I think hopefully it was a good start for you, Renan, to get some answers to your question. And I think you know how to reach to Sam. I mean, he shared his website. So Eva, question for Alina. And Alina was very active answering all these questions in the chat. However, maybe one we want to highlight, even if she has answered already in writing.
Actually, Alina answered all of the questions in writing, I think. Should we take up one question anyways?
Yes, one that maybe not everybody might follow the chat. So which one from your perspective is the one we should highlight?
I think the one about to explain a little more about how they are linking support infrastructure and community engagement.
That's a great question. What we found in some of the communities that we work with, and as I mentioned earlier, to a lot of them we bring this services for the very first time. So for example, in Bali, when we started our community engagement campaigns, both at a top-down but as well as the in one-on-one conversations, the common question we've heard was, well, what is the point for me to separate all my recyclables if it's going to be mixed up down the line anyway, either in the truck or in the facility? And so we did have to be very mindful of the collection schedule. We actually organized different types of recyclables and organic waste collection on different days to ensure that it was very visible that they are getting collected by separate services, and hence they're going into different places. And so I think they just go hand in hand together for the whole program to work and to be able to achieve the high results that we're aiming for.
Thank you very much, Alina. And one question for Yanwen.
There was only one from Islam who wondered about the sustainability of the fishing for litter approach.
Actually, I think we just discussed this question before, but I just want to go deeper in this question. And actually, our budget to support the fishing for litter activity is not just directly giving them some money back, but in the format of point exchange, they will get some small incentives, but definitely the material incentive is not the directly reason they go fishing for litter. And I think it's just a great example in local area of the social governance, and they receive the recognition and from the whole social community, and they think it's a valuable thing to protect the ocean and their home, and it's also benefit to their next generations. So actually, fishermen has a natural feeling of protecting the ocean and their home. So we just need to create better conditions and the atmosphere in the local area to help them more easily to do this.
Thank you very much, Yanwen. I'm looking at the time, and we all agree that we probably could spend easily another half an hour. Actually, Eva has done a similar workshop in another region of the world, and she told me we could have also gone on for some more hours, I guess. So looking at the time and being mindful that we are on live already nearly 90 minutes. I understand that GIZ will ensure that that you will have access to the recording. You will have we shared the links. There will be the graphic recording, and I think we all got some great pointers where to look for more learning, for more insights on behavioral change and raising awareness. I'm going to ask in a second Lena to give us 3 key takeaways. I asked her before we started this webinar to listen carefully and give us maybe 3 personal key takeaways, very, very short, just to facilitate a little bit our joint learning. And I put a link on Menti in the chat. I hope maybe we can, I hope it works, which is the 1-minute evaluation. We will request everybody who's still with us to click on. Then there will be a self-paced evaluation. You can just rank for a second how you felt about the webinar today and any comments you want to leave for us. And then when Lena gave her 3 key takeaways, we just wanted to show you what's coming ahead, because this was the 2nd edition and the 3rd, 4th and 5th edition are still coming. And we have great innovative project to share. And I just wanted to invite you to the next one next week on Wednesday, surprisingly. So Lena, just 1 minute or 1.5 minutes. It's a difficult task, I know, but 3 key takeaways, 1, 2, 3.
Thank you. I'll try to. So I guess like my first key takeaway is that everyone can change if he or she has also the information in the surrounding environment. And I guess this is my second key takeaway, that there are a lot of factors to be built together, and is being it like infrastructure, incentives, also emotions and the social environment. So really looking at the whole picture. And then the 3rd key takeaway from my side was that there's a lot of like, it's a really active process. So we heard a lot about tailoring, designing, creating, but also testing. So we really need to look at the specific environments and then see what kind of possibilities there are, who can basically be key persons also to involve, to also be a good social contact for others, and then also learn and experience a bit within this context. So this, in short, are some key takeaways, and I thank everyone also for this very great insights.
Thank you very much, Lena. And I wanted to thank again all our presenters today, Yanwen, Alina, Sam and Ni, for your time and your dedication to share your approaches. And we, of course, wish you to have strength and motivation to continue this amazing work you're doing. And we have, of course, many allies and many other active people in this call. I saw even some names where I know they are working also on behavioral change, but coming from completely different areas. For example, I saw a senior person working on malaria behavioral change. So there's also cross-learning today. And again, there is a link in the chat please click on it. If we would get some higher numbers on feedback comments, we highly appreciate that. Last but not least, Wasteless Wednesdays will continue on the 22nd of June. I think there is a slide for that. We having on the 22nd of June, same time, different link, promoting alternatives to single-use plastics in supermarkets or in markets, express delivery and logistics. This will be moderated by my colleague Muna Haag, so that you don't get bored with my face and voice. And then there will be another two. You can already mark your calendars on the 29th of June and the 6th of July. So we have 3 more Wasteless Wednesdays for you. And so if I'm not mistaken, that's it for now. If you want to contact us, you know how to. There is a website also, Rethinking Plastics. And we thank one more time Eva from the Prevent project for co-hosting today's edition. And I think we all agree this was a well-spent 90 minutes of our time. And I feel inspired. I hope you do too. So let's keep up the very important work and see you hopefully next week. And so please, if you have any comments, you can also leave something in the chat. And I see people raising their hand. I don't know.
Sorry, I just want to clap.
Okay, so
Thank you.
So officially the time is up. So if you have any final comments to us, the organizers will stay for a few minutes. And once again, thanks Alina, Yanwen, Ni, and Sam. And maybe we can see them, not only my face. I see even people joining right now. Can we see all the speakers again? Yes, here we go. I see Yanwen, if they're still there. Okay. Wonderful. Okay, maybe we can take a group picture if all the speakers are still there. Or any participants who want to join? Yes. Can I invite all the participants who are still there, maybe to switch on the webcam so we show that someone was there and we're not talking to the converted? Wonderful. Okay, I see people coming on webcam. Nice to see you, faces. So there must be more people still there, right? So some more webcams on, guys. Do we get I think there are some slots left for switching on the webcam. Are they all gone? I'm not looking at the number of participants. Can we beautify that screenshot, please? Vasa Global, and take out the non-webcams.
Yes, sir. We'll take the picture in 3, 2, and 1. Once again, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to everybody. That's it for today. And I hope to see many of you next week. Then we have Muna Haag and Elena from the Rethinking Plastics being your hosts. So have a good day or good morning, depending where you're logging in from, and see you soon.